So one question I get all the time is, what is a web framework? Or rather, hey, I want to make a web application. What the heck does that mean? How does one go about doing it? Specifically, how would one do it in Python? Okay, so what you're going to want to do for the new Python programmer is check out a web framework called Flask. Flask is a micro framework. What does that mean? It means you don't need a whole lot of code to get going with your web application. So I've given you kind of a little bit. Now let's step back and take a look at the big picture. What is a web application? Well, let's say you have a Python script that does something. It takes in some data, does something to it, returns something. Super general. Okay, well now I want to show that to the world via the web, via the internet. So if I'm going to access your Python script, I'm going to get the data, get the output of your script, and I want to view it in my web browser on a different computer, then you're going to need to find a way to serve that data up. So you're going to serve it up, and I'm going to access it with my web browser. So you use a web server to serve up data. Now, a web framework, is going to handle all of that web server logic for you. It's going to make it easy. So you can just say, hey, when a user goes here, give them this. When a user goes there, give them that. What is the this or the there? Those are going to be the URLs or the URIs, the uniform resource locators that people type into their web browsers to get information. So let's look at why is Flask a micro framework? Because there is very little code you need to actually stand up your web application. So here on the Flask homepage is the Hello World example for the Flask framework. Now, here's the important part. I don't want you to look at these first two lines. Ignore them. Same with these last two lines. Ignore these as well. The only thing you need to focus on when you're just getting started is this little function right here. So you have a function called hello that returns a string, hello world bang. Awesome. Then there's this thing above it, this @ symbol, which is a decorator, and it says app.route to slash. So what's happening here? So the germane thing, the decorator, this line above, app.route, is saying, here is the route, here's where a person would go, and then the function is what they'll get. What's returned here is what they'll get when they go to this URL. What's the URL? It's slash. It just means this would be your index or the homepage of your website. So at slash, so if I run this locally, it'll be at localhost. But if it were, let's say I was hosting it on the website called Gus is Awesome, it would be at gusisawesome.com/ or just gusisawesome.com. So this is just saying when the user goes here, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to run this function called hello. What does hello do? It returns a string called hello world. So if you copy these whatever it is, 10 lines, into a Python file, let's just call it hello.py, you make sure Flask is installed. If you run that file, Python hello.py or whatever you called it, and then go to localhost :5000. The :5000 here is the port that Flask is running is going to run on as default. You don't need to know what a port is. You don't have to care at this point. Just go to :5000. Later on, you can learn how to change that port so you can put it on a different one if you so choose. But for now, just go to 5000, and what will you see? You'll see Hello World in your browser. Hello World bang. So that is the quickest introduction to Flask. I hope that is helpful. Yeah, I hope it's helpful. Let me know if it's not.